Good day everybody, and welcome back to my channel, The Mysterious Black Bandit. First and foremost, I want to thank every one of you guys for your support. As of right now, I've reached over 1,000 subscribers, and I'm truly thankful for every one of you guys. Next, I need you guys to do me a quick favor as usual before we get started. If you don't mind, please take the time out to hit that like and subscribe button and turn the notification bell on to receive all new videos as soon as I upload. Alright, if you did that, let's jump into this video. In today's video, we'll be talking about the one and only Geddis Martinez, aka Alpo. Alpo was born on June 8, 1966 and raised in East Harlem, a section in Upper Manhattan, New York City. He was the youngest of the two children in a single mother's household. Some believe that Alpo was an African American, but reports show that he was just a dark-skinned Puerto Rican. It was said that the father abandoned the family, so Miss Martinez was left alone to raise and take care of the family, but that was a struggle. She wasn't a highly educated woman, so the only jobs she was getting were cleaning and clergy jobs. Miss Martinez was very protective of Alpo. It was said that if she heard her son had an issue with someone on the streets, she would go directly to the person to confront them. Despite her low salary, she still wanted her son to get a good education and also get him closer to God, so she enrolled Alpo into a Roman Catholic school. But reports stated that later, Alpo left the Catholic school and became a student at Automotive Mechanic High School and Julia Richmond High School. Once school was out, his mother would send him to spend summers with this white family whose last names were Clinton. He did this just to keep him away from the streets and so he could see a different lifestyle and how others grew up. Now, it was stated that during Alpo's youth, he was considered to be a good and humble kid. He wanted to be a Marine or a cadet, but with the community being filled with drugs and violence, it was hard to keep the young kids from the streets. After a while, Alpo grew tired of seeing his mother struggle, so he decided to drop out and pursue the life of drugs and crime. At the age of 13, Alpo started selling drugs on the streets of East Harlem, but being a young and inexperienced drug dealer, he was quickly caught and arrested for possession of hard substance. He didn't spend much time in jail due to his age and was released soon afterwards. Once he was released, Alpo went straight back to the streets, but this time he was more serious about making money. It was said that he was out in the corner in the freezing cold dealing drugs. At the age of 15, Alpo was introduced to a guy named Randy Love who taught him the street game. And it was stated that after he met Randy, he took over the east side. He became more aggressive and started robbing apartments and sticking up people. During this time, the war on drug era had taken place, so a lot of drug dealers were getting knocked off and locked up. In 1987, crime boss and Alpo supplier Za'zell Preston was shot 9 times in an attempted robbery at the Sagamore Apartments on the 3rd floor. As he tried to recover from his injuries, the drug network began to crumble. This caused severe strain in the relationship between him, Alpo, and Richard Porter, so he decided to step back and let Alpo and Rich take over. Now, Richard, or Rich Porter, was AZ's childhood friend and fellow drug associate that was introduced to Alpo once he came to the west side. And the two of them bonded pretty quickly and became really close friends, kind of like brothers. In the late 80s, Alpo and Rich took over New York. The streets said it wasn't the rappers or the athletes that was on top of the social hierarchy in the black community. It was Alpo and Rich. They were the trendsetters of fashion and were living the life that many rappers spoke about in their music. At such a young age, these two young men had it all, from the flashy clothes, women, luxury cars, and street fame. It was said that on one 4th of July, Alpo went and bought up to 15 to 20,000 worth of fireworks and took them back to the neighborhood and lit up all of Harlem. Now, when the crack epidemic took off, Alpo and Rich weren't the main plugs anymore. It was like everyone was selling crack cocaine and had taken over small areas of New York. So Alpo decided to move to Washington, D.C. to move with his girlfriend and expand his operations. At that time, Rayful Edmond was D.C.'s kingpin, and it was said that he was holding over $3 million of drug money. But he ended up getting locked up, and that's when Alpo came in and took over. Reports state that Alpo was always on the road going back and forth to DC and New York all the time. But on January 3rd, 1990, Alpo and one of his accomplices, Gary Terrell, or Big Head Gary, would do the unthinkable and murder his close friend, Rich Porter. Alpo said he met Rich that night and told him to get in his van. Once he got in the van, Alpo locked the doors and pulled off. Then he asked Rich, "Where'd you get that cocaine from? That was some good stuff." Now, Alpo only asked him this to make him feel comfortable. Then Rich responded saying that he got it from his connect, but Alpo knew he was lying. So he turned to Big Head Gary and gave him the nod. And next thing you heard was 2 gunshots and Rich was slumped over. Then they drove to a secluded spot on the highway to dump the body. Big Head Gary got out to pull Rich's limp body out the van, but he wasn't strong enough. Alpo stated that while he was getting out to help, he realized Rich was still alive, so he took the gun from Big Head Gary and put a final shot in his head. In an interview, Alpo said he gave him a chance to tell the truth, but after he lied, I had to do what I had to do. He said that he was very upset that he had to kill the person that he loved, made money with, and called his brother. But it wasn't personal, it was strictly business. Now, Alpo's girlfriend at the time stated that after Rich was killed, he came back to DC to live with her for a while. But by this time, his name was all over the streets because he helped a lot of people and gave them opportunities to make money. But since he wasn't from there, he didn't know who he could trust. One day, Alpo was walking down the street and a group of men tried to kidnap him. He stated that once he seen the guys trying to kidnap him, he took off. And as he was running, the kidnapper shot him once in the ribs. After he was released from the hospital, Alpo was determined not to ever be a victim of that situation again. And this is when he met notorious gangster and DC enforcer Wayne "Silk" Perry. He'd hired him to become his bodyguard and hitman. Having Wayne Perry on his team was one of the best things he could have done. Wayne was respected all across DC and a ruthless killer. In one article, it stated that if you weren't on their team and had something they wanted, they were for sure going to get whatever they wanted anyways. On November 7, 1991, Alpo was arrested in Washington, D.C. by the FBI on charges for selling drugs, conspiracy to commit murder, and 14 counts of murder that included Michael Anthony Salter, aka Frey, and Demisio Benson, who were also drug dealers. Facing the possibility of either the death penalty by lethal injection or life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, Alpo made a deal with U.S. officials and turned informant. It was stated that Alpo gave full descriptive details of every murder that was committed. On one situation, Alpo stated that his accomplice Big Head Gary, the trigger man behind Rich's murder, had become jealous because people thought he was working for him, allegedly. Then he said one day Wayne contacted him saying Big Head Gary was out in the streets telling his business and disrespecting his wife. After that, Alpo and Wayne said they need to come up with a smart plan to get rid of Greg. Later on that week, he stated Greg had called them to help him take out a guy that had previously tried to kill him. So Alpo, Wayne, and a couple other guys went and picked Big Head Greg up, and as they were driving for a while, one of the guys sitting in the back pulled out a revolver and shot him in the head. Alpo said the car started to stink because the guy lost his bowels. So they took off his clothes and drug his naked body out to the woods. Alpo testified against members of his own organization, but the main one was for his testify against Wayne Perry, who received 5 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, and Alpo was only sentenced to 35 years in prison. In 2015, it was reported that Alpo had been released from jail early due to good behavior, and was sent to live in Lewiston, Maine under the alias name Abraham G. Rodriguez. Reports stated that Alpo made friends, started his own contracting business, and rode dirt bikes in the woods. Even one of his neighbors said he was a nice neighbor, always polite and nice to their dog. Alpo had a nice, normal life and allegedly had his own family, but he couldn't stay away from Harlem. It was said that Alpo regularly returned to the city and engaged in his old life, tried selling old feuds, and re-entered the street scene, which eventually got him kicked out the Witness Protection Program. On October 31st, 2021, around 3 a.m., Shaquem Parker was standing around 151st Street and 8th Avenue when he noticed Alpo sitting in his pickup truck across the street. He then approached the driver's side window and opened fire, striking him several times. Alpo tried to drive away, but he didn't make it far. One of the bullets had hit him in his heart, causing him to crash into a parked car. The ambulance rushed him to a nearby hospital in Harlem, but it was too late to save his life. Although the streets believe that his death was a long-awaited payback from his infamous betrayal, authorities believe that this happened because of an issue Shaquem had with him over the summer when Alpo was riding his motorcycle and brushed past him in a disrespectful way. Officials would call this a crime of opportunity, and Shaquem Parker would be charged with second-degree murder. Alberto Geddis Martinez was 55 years old when he died. Some would say his death didn't come as a surprise after he broke the streets code. Alright family, that will bring this video to an end. I would like to thank you guys again for all the support, and I look forward to doing the next video. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button for your boy, and tell me what you think about Alpo in the comments. Do you think his death was just over the incident he had with Shaquem Parker, or do you think this was a long-awaited hit from his past? Thank you guys again, and until next time, stay mysterious, my friends.